All right, so we're live right now. All right, how you doing? This is Capurso, and I'm here with Alex Carneiro. Take a look at Alex right here. What's up, Alex? Say hello to everybody.
What's up, everybody?
So we're going to talk shop. Right now, we just found out today the NPC News Online released that there's a new division called Classic Physique, and Alex had texted me. I had no clue about it, and so he gave me the 411, telling me what's going on. So we're going to kind of just talk shop a little bit, talk about the new division, what our experiences were in the past with our present NPC and IPV contest history, and what the new division might mean to some of us. So I'm going to let Alex get started. I'm sure he's got a lot to say, so I'm going to put him back on. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're first generation men's physique pros, right? I mean, what does that mean? That means we were the first generation of pros to get our pro cards in the first year, in the beginning of that first year. And, our bodies were very different back in the day than they are today due to the change of the evolution of the sport. And you're right. I mean, this morning actually, I wasn't even the one who found out about the division. It was actually a brand new pro, Brendan Frocken. He was actually first generation too, and he sent me the link when I woke up. And I had already seen that they were going to make a new division. I didn't know what it was going to be about, so I clicked on it and I thought, interesting. There's a lot in that video, and I think it would be a great good term to discuss about the details that were talked about in this video.
Okay. So why don't you give us a quick history on your contest history, your past? When you mention your first year pro, etc. What does that mean specifically? And just so you go, a lot of people probably tuning in for the first time. So let's enlighten them a little bit more.
Yeah, man. So men's physique came out in 2011. It was back in the day, if you wanted to compete in the NPC or the IFBB, and you wanted to be a pro or even compete, your only option was bodybuilding. There's nothing else for the men. Women had bikini, fitness, figure, and bodybuilding, and then eventually they added both women and men's physique. Now, the introduction of the sport was basically so that any guy who did not want to look like a bodybuilder and had more of a beach body look, and I use that word pretty vaguely, beach body, because today that's no longer, a word that most people are going to use when they refer to men's physique. So when it was a beach body look, not big, not the words associated with shredded, ripped, striations were not going to be affiliated with the division. And we were supposed to wear board shorts, which at the beginning of the division, this was kind of a joke. We're not highlighting and showing half the body that we have. So people were wondering, why aren't these guys wearing at least speed shorts or speedo, so they can show at least what kind of legs they had. So a lot of negative connotations came with this. Oh, the men's physique guys don't train legs. It's men's bikini. These guys are wimps. They don't train legs. It's funny because as the evolution of the sport came by, a lot of these guys were showing, posting Facebook and Instagram pictures of their legs, and people are like, wow, this is something that, um, these guys shouldn't be hiding. They should be showcasing these legs. And men's physique was very different. I mean, we were just talking about this. I earned my pro card at 176 pounds. I know you got your pro card at much heavier weight than I did. And it was quite interesting because at 176, I got my pro card, and then the next year I had to be a good 180. So that's 4 pounds in less than a few months. And as the evolution of the sport kept growing and growing, I had to be bigger and tighter and bigger and tighter to the point that I'm no longer the biggest and the tightest on stage. I have never not been top five in my competing history, and not even, I mean, the worst of God is top 10 at the Olympia, but I mean, it's just got to the point where now we are talking about light heavyweight bodybuilders pretty much putting on board shorts and competing. And if you watch the NPC video, you have our president of the IFBB talking about this. He's like, the guys are just getting way too big for the division as we originally had intended. So we're creating a new division for these guys based on weight and height, and the guys are going to be able to showcase their legs. Um, One thing that I found pretty interesting is, we've been talking about this within the IFBB pros. I'm talking to you, I'm talking to Anton as well, I'm talking to a few pros. We're all kind of, putting our thoughts out there on social media. And there's a lot of guys saying, oh, great, this is a great division for me. Um, And I'm like, is it really? I mean, this is not going to be a division that's going to be below men's physique. This is going to be a division that's going to be above men's physique, meaning between men's physique and bodybuilding. So a lot of guys are saying, oh, this is the perfect division for me because now I get to showcase my legs. We're not talking about bodybuilding. You know, the president of the organization said this himself. We're not calling this classic bodybuilding. If you watch the video and listen to the video closely, he said, we're calling this classic physique. We're not calling this classic bodybuilding. So you have a restriction on weight and height. So I'm 5'10". My restriction for this class is 200 pounds. Now, 5'10", 200 pounds on stage is a very, very, very muscular physique. You know, people don't realize that 200 pounds of pure muscle at a single percent body fat, that's a hell of a physique. I have to gain weight to look like, you know, to be at 200 pounds. I
Yeah.
don't have to lose weight. I have to gain weight.
I'm
So a
gonna
lot of
come.
these guys are,
I'm gonna
yeah,
come in on this one, and I'm
yeah,
the exact opposite. So, as much as everyone holds different, physique, right? I'm 226 pounds right now. I would have to come down a lot, 26 pounds, obviously, to get on stage. But I have not, as a pro, I have not competed under 205. 205 is the leanest I got for the Valenti Cup in 2013 when I was competing, and I felt emaciated. I turned pro at 199 on the cusp of 200 pounds. So I would have to actually go back to my original body that turned me pro near a train station, turned me pro originally, and I'm not sure how that's going to look. And now we're posing, and now we're actually doing, a mandatory. So it's going to be very interesting for me still to compete in this and be competitive in this. People like you, I'm not saying anything wrong with it, but there are people that are not, they look much bigger than they weigh, and that's you. You and I standing next to each other. I assume, I just assume. I think everyone looks bigger than me. I got that crazy complex, but it's one of those things where I don't feel like, I'm as big as I weigh. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where um, this is going to be a tight category for me to fit into. I still have a big waist. I still have those big legs and a big back. And so I'm still really going to have to push the envelope for me to get in here and compete in this division and do well with it because, everyone really, turns to me quickly and say, hey, this division is just like you said, perfect for you. You got those wheels. You're going to get a chance to show them and I'm ecstatic to do so. Look, I was back in the WBFF muscle model. I did the very first show prior to me competing, even in the men's physique division, because I wanted to showcase a little bit more and show the full body that I had. And I've been itching, I've been waiting, and I've been trying to talk to whoever I could talk to say, hey, man, this is the division, this is where it should go. And I'm super happy that, I'm certain it wasn't me, it was other people and everyone talking collectively. But this is the division now, and I guarantee that this is where, the classic, like they said, classic physique, this is where all eyes are going to go because we're not completely bodybuilders, but we're not underneath. So, you're going to find that this is the, going to turn into, I think, the mainstream. And I really think, Alex, just from listening to what Jim Mannion had said in the interview with Frank Zeppi, um, and who's the other
Sandy.
Sandy, and they were discussing it. I think they're really going to cut it back and go first year physique. For the pros when they were winning, the bodies were not as diced, as sliced as they are now, and you can actually see everybody just every year improving, putting a couple extra pounds on, and that's the natural evolution of the sport, and as it should be, right? You don't want to train to stay complacent. You always want to train to get better. And it was told to me in year one physique pro that I had to not train. And, that was devastating news to me. It was like, just do cardio. You're big enough as it is. Just go ahead and do cardio. You've gotten too big. And for, someone like me, an athletic person, a performance athlete, to hear things like that, that really put a bad taste in my mouth. But, I think I'm re-energized. And I always said, if you guys cut the shorts, I'll be back on stage and I'll be a great advocate for the sport. So you have my energy. You guys have now my attention, and we'll see what I could do going forward. But I mean, that's where I actually have to sit. And it's going to still be a challenge for me to get underneath that weight class at 5'10", 200. I might have to get on my tippy toes to see if I can get the 207 mark, and we'll see if they'll give it to me. Maybe they can, maybe see if I can grow an inch over the course of the year on top of everything else to give me that 7 pounds of extra space. But go ahead, man.
And that's the thing, we're opposites in that sense. And um, again, this is not a division that's going to be easier. In
No.
fact, now you got, like you said yourself, this is called classic physique. And one of the poses is your choice of a classic pose. So, we're immediately thinking, Frank Zane, Sergio Oliva, those poses that really stuck with us in our heads as originally when we started lifting, that's what we had in our head as what we wanted to look like. I think that's really, really cool, giving these guys or giving us a chance to actually flex on stage. Now, the interesting factor here is going to be, like I said, that height to weight factor. There's going to have to be a lot of dance muscle, in order to highlight that classic look. Um, so you're gonna have a guy, who is 5'10" and 200 pounds, and like again, like I said, that is not something super easy. So again, I'm seeing a lot of comments on social media saying, "Oh, this is perfect for me, this, and that." How is that perfect for you or any of these guys when, as men's physique guys, they already did not get their pro cards? So this is something people need to realize. This is not something meant to make it easier for the athletes. This is
Uh,
something that's going to be more challenging for the athletes. But at the same time, I think all of us, and like I said, the vibe I'm getting from all the pros that I've talked to, they're excited. They're really excited about getting the chance to, move up their game or, bring in new types of athletes into the NPC IFBB history. Now, another interesting thing that Jim said is that they're actually going to already bring Mr. Olympia for this next year. So, this is very exciting because it's going to open doors for several guys who probably said to themselves, I'm way too big to do men's physique. I don't fit in those board shorts. I'm sure you have issues buying damn board shorts because I definitely do.
mhm.
Um, and, I think it was funny. I'm at the gym today and I'm doing upper body, and I kind of felt like doing lower body just because now I can actually have the chance to, even show more of those legs. It's very, very cool that, we get for the people who want to compete in this new division, they're going to be able to show their legs. Now, the other interesting factor is that in Brazil, this class already existed. I actually had the chance of meeting two classic, they're still called bodybuilders down there, two classic bodybuilders in Brazil. And I mean, these bodies were just incredible. I mean, these were gorgeous, gorgeous bodies. And so it was kind of cool that now they're going to bring this division into the U.S. and make it official for everyone else who wants to compete in the Olympia. Um, and again, it's going to be pretty interesting because I did hear a lot of men's physique pros were getting so big that they're like, well, screw it, I'm just going to be a bodybuilder. If they really truly knew what it takes to be a bodybuilder, they wouldn't be speaking so vaguely about, what it is to be a bodybuilder. I mean, at that professional level.
Alex, I gotta
So
tell you, there was a time when, everyone always asked me, why don't you go up? I mean, because for the longest time I was told I gotta continue to bring it down, continue to bring it down, and that was, even my last show, or not the San Jose, I didn't even bother for feedback. I got smoked in that show. I got took 16th, and I think I just stood out like a sore thumb. But Toronto, I asked for feedback. Usually, you try to figure out what judges are judging you and look for a little bit of feedback, and they continue to tell me, hey, you still got to bring it down. And it really, I guess it's just one of those things where it's like they always said it depends on who shows up. So it really depends on that. Who's in the class. But when I look at myself in the mirror, I definitely don't feel like I'm the biggest physique guy anymore. There was a time that I certainly was at my pound, and I still might be the heaviest guy at 5'10". It's probably true still, but I don't think I have the biggest muscle bellies or the most expanded or the most aesthetics physique out there. Certainly, I have a large core from years in play of sports and football. And, I really was actually going to look into doing some CrossFit this year to take advantage of my proportions and my athleticism. So, something I'm still probably going to do. But at the same point, now this just gives me a little bit more energy towards getting back into the IFBB and being more of an advocate for the sport, because I kind of, not for nothing, I kind of walked away from it, turned my back a little bit as I felt it was turning its back on me, as it was not awarding, personalities like myself and others for their hard work and years of dedication to the craft. And now that they've opened up this division for us, I think it's going to re-energize a whole group of people. You're going to see a little bit more, I think you're just going to see a little bit more respect. I think the bodybuilders had starting to give us respect. I know year one, year two, they did not. There was a big clash of the Titans, if you will. But I really think after Sadiq and everyone else grabbed a little bit of muscle and getting some, placings, I think they really grabbed their attention. And you've seen some bodybuilders cross into our path. I've gotten beaten by an ex bodybuilder before. I was at the Dallas show, and there's a bodybuilder from years past jumped on stage and actually beat me in a show. So, I mean, it's going to be really interesting. And now that we're opening up this division here, like you said, you're going to see a lot of light heavyweights coming crossing into this division and seeing what they could do. You're probably going to see that. It's going to be really interesting to see how the weight classes hold up, specifically what people are going to need to do, how much water they're going to need to come in and lose. I certainly am going to have to play that game again. But maybe we just bring my physique completely down. And, I know now that I have to show those shorts, Alex, it's going to be, a whole nother level of conditioning, right? Now we're bodybuilders. I mean, if you think about it, even physique before, we could have got away with just being a little bit soft in our quads and our hams because it didn't really matter. Now we gotta play the tricks. We gotta put our feet up in the meantime, on the downtime. We gotta play all those tricks. And you bodybuilded before, right?
Yeah.
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 So,
That's where I started. Yeah.
yeah. So
Um,
now it gets real. Now those kids that were just good looking bodies and they got away with it. Now they got to get real. Now they got to get a little bit more involved with the sport and really learn how it's going to go down. So now I really think coaching is going to be really important. So people like yourself, I know you're a coach in this industry. Coaches are going to you're going to need a coach to compete in this division. If you think you're going to go it alone and you don't really know what you're doing, I got news for you. You're going to get your butt whooped. So I mean, you should be looking right now if you're going to be thinking of going to the classic physique, you should be looking for that coach who's going to help you get there because there's a whole different ball game when you got to show those quads. You got to learn how to pose. You got to sit on your heels. You got to make those things pop. There's a whole different ball game. So welcome to the league, brother.
there's three things that pop in my head when I think of this division and the whole thing that's going to happen. The first one is, if you have light heavyweight bodybuilders who the weight division ends at 198, I believe, or 190, 188.6. My question is, what's going to happen to these guys? Because that's still bodybuilding, and like JM said, the president, this is not what we're going to call bodybuilding. We're going to call this physique. So there's still going to be a game of aesthetics going on.
Yeah,
My
but
second,
those guys are shorter. Alex, those guys that are weighing in at the 198 and the light heavies, those guys are the 5'8s. Those guys are the 5'7s, and right? If you think about it, those are the guys that are
so they're
really.
going to have to come down.
Oh
They're
yeah,
going to have to come
they're
down.
still going
Yeah.
to have to lose muscle. So I think there's an equalizer in the game, because if we're just sitting here going up against light heavyweight bodybuilders, we're all going to get smoked. I mean, these guys just have that classic mass that we do not at this point because we've been training for a specific division, an
Right.
abs division. But at this point, they're going to have to lose some. I mean, they're not going to like it, but at least now that there's a cross in between, so they
The
don't have
other
to lose
thing
as
that's
much.
popping in my head is what's going to happen to men's physique. So JM said, as of this year, nothing's going to change. The current Mr. Olympia, whoever wins, in 2 weeks, nothing's going to change this year. Now, what's going to happen next year when they said that they're not going to be looking for sharp guys, they're not going to be looking for the biggest guys anymore? I'm very curious to see what men's physique will be and how it's going to evolve because how it's evolved right now is from us, first generation, to a very different look than what it is now. Now you're going to have to make a change in the look of men's physique if they're going to stick to what they're saying. If they're going to really award slightly smaller and maybe not as conditioned. But it's weird because when you if now you're going to have men's physique, classic physique and bodybuilding, that puts the men's physique guys into a category that we should be the smallest and the lightest. If we look at that in the female world, we have bikini, but these bikini girls, they're not coming in tight. They're not coming in smooth, and they're definitely coming in as tight as possible.
Well, they also
So,
said that's going to change too.
so what's going to happen? Do you think they're going to go with smaller and softer, which would be kind of weird, or they're just going to go smaller in size yet still very tight?
I kind of think they're going to soften the whole thing up, man. I mean, really, it's gonna take another year to two to get it just right, and I really think it's gonna just like the evolution of our sport, right? We had year one, and let's just face it. I mean, the looks that were hitting the stage were bodies that not everybody was jumping up and down for because they said, hey, these guys might be tighter. There's some people that weren't getting the looks. It was very up in the air, but they got it right over the course of the years, and they kind of just said, hey, we're going to basically judge who's there, and we're going to have to give it the best we can for that day. And so as you go forward now, you're going to have to see all the physiques that are on stage that day. So if you get a bunch of bodies that are actually a little bit soft and not razor sharp, those are the bodies that are going to be the majority, and those are going to be they're going to give the best of the soft. If you have a bunch of bodies that are so hard as nails, then they're going to have to judge that. Or maybe they don't reward the hard, and they judge and they give the best softest guy. You know what I mean? And it's going to be really interesting. But if I hate to keep mentioning the division because I know there's obviously they don't work well together. But look at the WBFF muscle model versus fitness model. I did both those categories. I did fitness model, and they basically gave me a fourth place. As much as I was the driest and leanest that day, they said, "Hey, you're too big. Go to the muscle model." I tried that the next time. I took sixth in the show, and they turned the first five pros. So it was a fortunate thing for me because the very next time I competed was a couple weeks later. I ended up doing very well in the MPC, and so that was really the wheelhouse that I looked for, and quite frankly, where I wanted to lay my hat. So I'm happy to be here. But at the same point, if you look at the winners of the muscle model category and the fitness model category, they're both really sharp. But there's just a little bit of muscle density difference. And so if we look at that, there's still going to be a division for those guys that don't come in packing all the mass on, but can still, look really well. Sean Stafford's done really well at this division past couple years, and the guy's a tank. I thought he looked really good. So I mean, I give kudos to all those guys that compete everywhere. I mean, I just give kudos to competitors for jumping on stage and putting yourself out there to be judged. It's not easy. It's not easy for someone to actually take that psyche and say, hey, I'm not the best today, or I'm not the best because this judge said so. And, it's one of those things. So if you're competing going forward, really just try to find a division that is really for you, because now they have something for everybody. And so that they really did a good service, I think, because now you can compete whether you're really soft and just getting started, you have a division to aim for. If you really want to pack on the size, you go for more of the classic physique. And if you really want to step over the edge, you go to the bodybuilding. So I really think they just gave us room for everyone to lay their hat if you're into fitness.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. The funny thing is in Brazil, they even have a fourth category, which is called actually men's body shape, which would actually be under even men's physique. I mean, you're talking about speedos and guys who literally, just look like they work out. It's not something very, you know, impressive, but they have even those options for everyone. Now the funny thing is, I wonder how long these shows are going to be, because the physique category, or sorry, the classic physique category is going to be allowed to do a 60-second
Yeah.
routine. So man, the show's already long as they are, and now you're going to look at even longer shows, potentially 3 4 days shows. Someone did say a good thing on social media. One of the guys who I posted, he said, the men's physique category is getting so saturated, so this could be a good thing to give, like you said, people options to do something. You don't have this way or this way, and I got this way, and that way. So I mean, I think only time will be able to tell what's going to happen to men's physique and what's going to happen with this classic body. See, I want to say classic bodybuilding, it's classic physique,
Yep.
um, and if it is, I think I could be wrong. I think this kind of started because of what Arnold maybe perhaps said at the beginning of the year. Arnold said at the Arnold he wasn't happy with the current bodybuilder look, that they were awarding these very thick, enormous guts guys. And the only person that I could think in the back of my head who had a more classic look to today's standards was Cedric McMillan. So, I think it'll be interesting now to see perhaps the evolution of what men's physique will be and what this classic physique is going to be. Because, I mean, next year, I hate to say it, I'm trying to be honest, it's going to be a shit show. You're going to have, men's physique guys who aren't big enough to do the class. You're going to have bodybuilders perhaps who are going to come down and do this too. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be a little bit of a mess. So just like men's physique, I think only time will be able to tell what's going to happen to the sport. But it is exciting to have now this option, and I think the height with some guys are saying it's stupid to have a weight and height class. I think it's very smart,
No, I do
because if you
too.
have just a height class, you can have any kind of monster again. I mean,
Yep.
you're gonna have basically bodybuilding once
Yep.
again. By having that weight and height, you're restricting the person to not having symmetry and not having those aesthetics that I think Arnold was talking about in the beginning of the year, and what the fans are talking about. I think social media is a little overrated with how they, these people who don't even compete, don't even understand human anatomy, are using the words and aesthetic, symmetrical. They just throw these words left and right. But I think now you're gonna have a few more words associated with the sport and aesthetics and symmetry and proportion, and it'll be kind of cool to see what's how they're gonna be awarding the legs. What's a good size, what's too big perhaps. Um, so it'll be pretty interesting too, because a lot of men's physique guys I've talked to, they said, I'm not doing men's physique anymore. I'm just going to jump onto bodybuilding. It's a joke. I can't even, like you said yourself, I can't even work out. You know, I'm just doing cardio after cardio after cardio. Um, One guy that pops in my head right now, I didn't even think about this guy, was Dean Fazlorzi, or whatever his last name was. I
Yeah.
remember when Dean got his pro card in first generation, he was way too big.
Yeah.
We're talking about a guy who's I think 6'2", 6'3". That guy's gonna, if he wants to go back and compete, that guy could do, if he's got the legs to go with it, he's gonna do great in this new division.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool to see, what the athletes are gonna choose as their favorite, classic pose, and how the 60-second routine poses are gonna look. So it's very exciting. Now, briefly, I want to talk to you about this too. The video also talks about how figure and women's physique too are going to have to come down a little bit.
Mhm.
So that should be pretty interesting too.
I just think, yeah, I think it's one of those things where they're just trying to separate, for the longest time, I mean, behind closed doors, we've all talked about it. Hey, what is this division really looking for? Can they give us a really strict criteria to go on? And now that I think they're just really doing a good job at saying, hey, we're taking into consideration all these things that if you were to put your notes in a suggestion box, right? I think they're doing a good job right now at saying, hey, we got to start answering some of these questions because, as much as we have so much steam in this industry, we are now a little bit more mainstream than we ever were, right? We were probably the 1 to 2 percenters before. And now I think we're gaining some steam and we're actually getting some notoriety in the real world. Now social media is popularizing the sport. And so I think they kind of have a responsibility to own up to the masses. And I think that's what they're doing. This is now becoming a mainstream sport. This is now becoming, something in the eyes of the world and could be now potentially recorded on an ESPN or something later on in life. And I think that's what we're setting ourselves up for at this point. So I think you're just watching the evolution of the sport of men's physique, bodybuilding, figure, bikini, all the rest. The sport of working on your body is now becoming mainstream and being something serious that you will start seeing mass produced in the eyes of the mainstream people, and you'll start seeing some names being recognized on the proportions. I wouldn't say of Arnold just yet because obviously he's been a superstar and a legend in the sport, but you're going to start seeing some names getting out there and some people within our industry making it happen. I mean, look at Dana Lynn Bailey. She's doing a hell of a job for her career, had to step away from the Olympia this year because she's got so much good things going on. And that's a direct reflection of what she's done in the sport and being able to influence the society. So I think that's what we're doing is we're allowing, social media has helped, us have personal growth and business growth as well. So
Yeah, I agree 100%. So, Greg, thank you for making this happen. I know this was a pain in the ass to set up. This isn't easy, but hopefully we can keep making these videos so that people can continually grow, and we'll have different topics of discussion for people to keep learning about everything in the industry and everything around the industry.
absolutely. I mean, this is something I set up a little while ago with a podcast named Mind Pump, and I ended up walking away from it for one reason or another. But I do believe that this is an opportunity for us to kind of get our voices heard, talk a little bit shop about the industry, and having some experience, we can go ahead and enlighten the crowd that's out there. A lot of people have a lot of questions, and being that we have some of the most experience in our industry specifically, we're going to be able to talk a little bit about it. I know that there are different podcasts and different things out there, but this is bringing the power back to the people and getting the voice heard, from within. So we'll do much more of this. Make sure to follow, my social media at Capurso as well as Alex. What's yours? Give them a plug.
Mine is just Alex Carneiro.
So both of us, have been smart. So many guys have these names that are like hidden and secretive. But if you're out there and you're about to start making a hashtag or something about yourself, make sure it's your name because your name's ultimately going to be the headlines eventually, and no one's going to know about your secret hashtags or whatever you got going on. So pro tips. But Alex, thanks for joining me today, and we'll do this again.
Thanks, Greg. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Bye.
Bye.